Hey, fourth graders, welcome back to day 3. Hope you guys are doing well at home and staying healthy and washing your hands. Today we're going to be looking at some fraction story problems. So the way that this is going to work is we're going to do 3 problems together. The first 2 I'm going to do, and then the third one I'll ask that you guys pause the video and work on it, and then we'll come back and we'll go over the answer together. And then I'll have you guys again work on some homework on your own. So for our first question today, it says, Mr. Rush has a pie which he cuts into 8 equal pieces. Mr. Joustra has a pie that is the same size, but he cuts his into 4 equal slices. Mr. Rush and Mr. Joustra both ate 3 slices of their own pie. Oh, yum. But who ate the most pie? Think for a second. All right, now that we've had a chance to read that question, I want to show you what I would personally do. Now, I always tell you guys, when we have a story problem and there's lots of numbers, it's a really, really good idea to draw a picture. Okay, so here's the picture that I drew. Now, again, remember, Mr. Rush is not a good artist, but I did my best. Okay, so we're comparing Mr. Joustra to Mr. Rush here. Okay, so on this side here, Mr. Rush has a pie that was split into about 8 equal slices. And over here, we have Mr. Joustra's pie that was split into about 4 equal slices. You can tell that Mr. Rush colored in 3 of his slices that he ate, and I colored in the 3 slices that Mr. Joustra ate. Now, just from looking at this whiteboard here, I can tell that Mr. Joustra ate way more pie than Mr. Rush, which is a bummer because I kind of wish I was the one who ate more pie. So in this case, I would say that Mr. Joustra ate the most pie. And for our second question today, it says, the 4th grade has 3 running teams. Each team has 18 runners. In a race, 1/6 of Team A, 1/9 of Team B, and 1/3 of Team C passed the first water stop at the same time. Which team had the most runners at the first water stop at the same time? And then explain your answer. Think for a second. All right, now as we look at the second question here, I know that there were 18 runners on all 3 teams. So each team had 18 runners. It said that Team A had 1/6 of their team finish at the first water stop. Team B had 1/9 of their team finish at the first water stop. And Team C had 1/3 of their team finish at the first water stop. Now, I do have the fractions broken out into total number of runners over here, but you necessarily don't need to do that to answer this question. All I need to do to answer this question is to figure out which fraction is the biggest. Okay, if I compare 1/6, 1/9, and 1/3, I notice that my numerators are the same, which means I need to look to the denominator. And I know that when the numerators are the same, the denominator that is the smallest is technically the biggest fraction. And I know that 1/3, the 3, is the smallest denominator, which means 1/3 is our biggest fraction. And therefore, that's the biggest fraction of runners to complete the stop up to the first water stop, which means Team C would have had the most runners finish. And for our third question, which I want you guys to do on your own for a second, it says the college football season has 12 games. Michigan lost 1/3 of their games, Michigan State lost 1/4 of their games, and Ohio State lost 1/12 of their games. Who won the most games? Okay, so you can pause the video at this time and try to figure this one out on your own. Hey guys, thanks for working on that problem, and I know that some of you guys might be upset about the answer, but hey, I'm the teacher, so I get to add a little bias into my questions if I'd like. So let's take a look at that problem a second and talk about the answer. So there were 12 total games in the season. Michigan lost 1/3 of those games. Michigan State lost 1/4 of the games, and Ohio State lost 1/12 of the games. Now, in our last question, we were looking for the bigger fraction because that would tell us the higher number of runners who stopped at the water stop. But in this case, if we look for the bigger fraction, it's telling us the team that lost the most, which in this case would be Michigan, because 1/3 would be our bigger fraction out of the 3. Here we're looking for the smaller fraction, because that would tell us who won the most games. So in this case, Ohio State has the smaller fraction at 1/12, which means they lost the least amount of games, which in return means they won the most amount of games. Yes, go Buckeyes. All right, so that wraps up our lesson for today. Now you guys can go over to your math book and work on, I think, the 8 questions that I have assigned for today. Let me know if you have any questions, and hey, wash your hands.